I'm Sarah and welcome to CoreMoodz. Today I'll be talking to you about your horror or my horror book recommendations to you to possibly find a book. I hope you find a book that you can put on your October TBR. I know every year that's really hard to find books that fit the spooky season and that are good books. So I was like, let me just dig into my favorites list and see what what horror books I give 3.5 stars and higher. So I tried to find a couple of those and I've organized them into subcategories. Some make sense, some don't make sense because I didn't want to spoil the book. So I'm just going by the general description of the book, and I'm also not giving synopsis and stuff with every book because I just feel like I've said before, if you just see the cover, read the title, if you've read from the author or not, and if you just start reading the synopsis, you can decide for yourself how far you want to read the synopsis. And because I think with horror books and also with thriller books, the twist, the creative thing that the author does, if you already know what that is, then it's really, the writing has to be really good and engaging, and the characters have to be really strong for you to keep on reading. And in horror, I find myself, of course, I want good characters and amazing, engaging, and beautiful writing, but I can be okay with that being of a secondary thing if the plot is really good, if the twists are really good, if it's really scary and creepy and I can feel it. So the first category is supernatural or paranormal, and entities, possession, ghosts, haunted house. And the books that I have in this category is first House of Leaves by Mark Z. Danielewski. I think everyone knows this book. It's like, if you haven't heard about this book, then maybe you have to start with something a little bit simpler, because this book is like, there's a story within a story within a story, and there is a haunted house element, and it's very interesting what happens in this story. The second book is Incidents Around the House by Josh Malerman, and that story broke my heart. It's like, it's from a child's perspective, and the child is in a really hard position and very vulnerable, and then an entity comes knocking on the door. So I'm not gonna say more than that. I think Josh Malerman, I'm gonna try to read from him more because I feel like Incidents Around the House really hit me hard. So I think maybe there's something else that he has written before that can also work for me. But I would definitely recommend Incidents Around the House for this October. Also The Night Guest by Hildur Knatsdotter. This book was I will talk about it in combination with Come Closer by Sarah Graham. Those two books are it's about a woman and things happening, things taking over, things changing. And I will even add Mary by Nat Cassidy to this list, or this part of the list, because these books are about women going through life, things happening, and something taking over. And I think if you've read one of those, then I think the other two will be interesting for you to read. The next book is The Reformatory by Tananarive Due. And this book is heartbreaking. It's like, how can I explain this? The injustice. Because it's like, I think it's about the US during Jim Crow. There's this little black child, and he's walking on the street with his sister. And there's this white boy. And this white boy gets into I think he's trying to like talk to the sister or something, and something happens, and he's very entitled, and the brother tries to protect his sister, and the boy runs to his dad. Well, that escalates and ends up in having this boy, the black boy, being put into a reformatory. Something that happened a lot during that time. Little black boys being removed from their houses, put in reformatories where they are subjected to harm and abuse and neglect, and it's like horrible. And that's one level of the horror, and then there is also different kinds of horror. And I would definitely read the trigger warnings list, because this book goes to very dark places, and I think if it wasn't Tanan Review and her amazing writing, I just don't think I would be able to stomach this story. And the next book is Stolen Tongues by Felix Blackwell, and this story already starts very creepy, because there's this man and this woman, and I think they're in some cabinet somewhere in the woods or something, and the woman is sleeping and the man overhears her talking to herself, and then he realizes whatever's out there, she's talking to something outside. I'm sorry, that would be cause for divorce right there. So that book is really scary. It's like completely creeped me out, because that's only the start of the creepiness. Next book is Sour Candy by Keelan Patrick Burke, and that book is very short and it's very intense. It's about a mother and a child, and they're in an aisle somewhere in a supermarket, and then this passerby, this guy, the guy that it's the POV, the main character, I think he looks at them at the mother with this judgmental look, and he recognizes that the mother's like completely losing it. She's like tired and not in a good mental space, and all of a sudden he gets entangled into something I don't think he can even imagine. And yeah, I really liked where it went, the story, but it's like really, really scary. If that happened to me, I would like completely lose it. So definitely recommend this book, and it's very short. The next book is Crossroads by Laurel Hightower, and that book is about grief, about how far a mother would go in her grief to reconnect with her son. And yeah, there's a lot of body horror, so this book also would fit somewhere else. But yeah, I think I can recommend it, but I would say check the trigger warnings. And the next book I'm talking about is The Patient by Jasper DeWitt. That book is also really scary. It's like about a man, or I think he's a doctor. He goes into some kind of asylum and he finds this patient that everyone is ignoring and people are scared of, and trying to have as less of just limited time and limited contact with, because people have panic attacks and have really bad reactions from interacting with this patient. And me, I'm the kind of person that I would mind my own business, but this main character is like fully invested into trying to connect to this patient, try to give this patient some kind of therapy and stuff, and things go completely left. So I would completely recommend this book, and it's very scary. And the last book in this category is The Devil in Silver by Victor Laval. This book is really well written. It has good tension, amazing characters, and it's like the story is also set in an asylum. It's about a guy who's like on the street and he gets targeted by this policeman, and instead of bringing him to a police station, they bring him into an asylum. And he's trying to explain to the doctors there that what happened, why he's there, but no one is believing him, and he's estranged from his family. No one wants to help him, and it's like really sad. But then once he settles into the rhythm of the place that he's in, he comes into contact with a new type of horror. That's all I'm gonna say. Definitely would recommend this book. The next category is folk horror, religious horror, and gothic horror. Because I feel like those three subgenres sometimes overlap. So the first book I'm going to talk about is The Har by David Sodergren. And this book is about, I think somewhere, is it in Scotland? Somewhere by the sea, and a quiet area where a lot of people live that want a slow life and quietness and beautiful nature. They live their lives and they're happy until a company starts buying the land and wanting, I think, to put some kind of luxury villa or something. And this company starts to terrorize the people, starts to threaten the people, starts to make sure everyone gets out and sells their houses to them so they could build this thing that they want to build. And there's this older woman with a really strong mentally. She wants to stay. This is her house. This is where she lived with the love of her life. And he passed away recently. So she's like grieving and not wanting to leave. And then she and a sea creature make a bond. And things go left. That's all I'm going to say. I think it's a very, very heartwarming story, even though it's very graphic and there's a lot of intense scenes of bodies being mutilated. So I would, it's not cozy. Even it's like really scary. So, but I really loved it. It really had heart. And the next book is Slewfoot, A Tale of Bewitchery. That's also a really good book, and I would definitely recommend buying the book because the author is an artist, and he drew a lot of the art, and I think his style is very interesting. Something about it is very ominous and historical, but then ominous, and definitely gives devil worshiper. And yeah, this Slewfoot is a really good story. I think a lot of people would like it because it's like a very basic story about a woman trying to be independent in a man's world. I think the time is during the Puritan era. She makes a connection to something that can help her. Yeah, it's a very interesting book. The next book is Bat Eater and Other Names for Khorasan by Kylie Lee Baker. This book was like, I had no idea what it was going to be about because the title, Bat Eater, I just thought, what does that mean? But apparently it was something that people said during the pandemic to people from Asian descent in the US. And yeah, that's very triggering and very hard. And I just can't imagine people going that far. But of course, people will go that far. These are the times for people going far with what they call public speech. So this book is about Khorasan. Her sister gets killed in a very traumatic way, and she witnesses it. And the person who kills her sister shouts "Bat Eater," and she's completely traumatized by this, and she develops a lot of compulsive behaviors. I don't know if it specifically says that she has OCD or if it's part of her trauma and trying to cope. So I have no idea what it specifically is. Because I'm not sure that I feel like OCD is something you have like over a longer period of time. So I don't know if she had it before the incident or it was something that was triggered by the incident. So that's like a little bit muddy. But she has to deal. How can she go on in the world without her sister, in a world where everything is scary, where bad things can happen, and it's also specifically during the pandemic. So that's also an interesting look at the pandemic. I find that a lot of pandemic books don't work for me, but this one did. Next book, Strange Houses by Yuketsu. I've talked about this book in my vlog, my horror books vlog, and I think this book is very interesting. It's about this house. A friend of the main character wants to buy it and move in with the family, and then they start analyzing the blueprint, and then a lot of revelations come to light. I think the twist in this book is definitely the reason that I think it's one of my favorite books that I've read this year. But at the same time, I just feel like when it comes to superstition, folklore, and religion, the lengths that people will go through just because they want to hold on to a belief is like really scary. So these are the books under this subgenre. The next genre is creature feature. There are books that I've mentioned that have creatures in them, but the creature was not like the main thing, so I put it under another subgenre. So this genre is creature feature, and I think the books that really, one of my favorite books under this category are Nana by Brandon Massey. This book is about this woman who has a parent that passes, I think, or someone passes. I think it's a grandma or an aunt or something, and she has a big loss. And at the same time, someone she thought she lost reconnects with her and finds a way to enter her life. And that person has it's a question mark what their intentions are. I think it's very interesting when people come into your life and then start taking over. When do you say this is my boundary? I think to me that part in itself is already a horror, let alone if that person was maybe something else. So I think that's very interesting. Another book is Someone You Can Build a Nest In by John Wiswell. This book a lot of people like because it's cozy horror, and it's like the main character is a creature, and it's very cozy and cute, but also very disgusting. And I really like this book. The last category is body horror and extreme books. One of my favorite books in this subgenre is Any Man by Amber Tamblyn. I feel like this book is like, I just want every man in the world to read it. Just to understand how it is to be a woman, what kind of fear you have, why if you're walking in the dark to your car after a night of going out with your friends, you keep your keys in your hand. You try to park your car in an area that has light. It's like there's a lot of things women think about that men don't even realize. And I just think Any Man by Amber Tamblyn. I just think every man needs to read this book. The Lamb by Lucy Rose. This book was so intense and so extreme, but also so sad. And that ending, I know everyone that read this book just felt it. Next book is Frankenstein in Baghdad by Ahmed Sadawi. This book is really, the author was really interested in Frankenstein, and he wanted to write his own version or inspired by book. And this book is like an homage. And I feel like it's so, if you've read an Arabic novel before, it has like this certain vibe, and it's horror, but it's also the cultural influences, and it's like the book is set during a war. So it's like, I recommend this book. It's very interesting. And I'm not talking about the plot because it's a very short book and you have to go through it to understand what it's about. So the last book in this genre is The Center by Aisha Manazir Siddiqui. And this book, it presents itself as like this book about learning languages and crossing boundaries, and it's the thriller. What's going on? What's this institute doing? And then all of a sudden it goes into extreme. So that's why it's in this category, but I'm not going to say what it's about. It's like, just in simple words, it's about a woman who wants to learn a new language, goes to a place where they teach a language, but it's not the way because she becomes fluent in this language, I think, within a week. But the way they do it, very interesting. And you don't know what they're doing to them until the end of the book. But I thought it was very disgusting. But it's interesting book. Definitely would recommend. Let me know in the comments. Is there a book that I recommended that you think you might want to pick up in October, maybe? And if there's anything you thought was interesting or you want to ask about something specifically, like a specific recommendation, put it all in the comments. And thank you for watching. Bye.